Hello, I'm Micaiah and BlackThronProd had issued a 64 by 64 challenge. He was having some trouble with his screen resolution and displaying it on various monitors. So when he actually played the game at normal resolution, that's his little tiny game there. This is actually the game that he wanted to scale up. So he was very sad. So we decided we'd try to help him. We created a game first of all. This is not the game. I just noticed this was kind of cool. Where you got this little, it's a 16 by 16 character that's really weirdly scaled. Anyway, so he can't go outside of the screen. It's not quite what he was probably looking for. Anyway, so what we did then is we can actually turn off that camera and we created a camera. It's 64 by 64. It's in Skyblock and it's for various reasons. And then we've created the scene 64 by 64. We can then scale it again. Ah, yeah, much better. That's our sort of kind of what he was. I think that's sort of what he was going for. And then if you can actually zoom out now, and then you actually get to play the pretty sort of decent game that he was playing. I'm not sure the sort of the setup he was doing, but I noticed one thing though when I set everything up like this. When I changed my camera to my 1366 by 768, I do get this. Oops, it's scaled in a little bit. I do get this sort of the same sort of gameplay that's scaled to the. This should actually create at the same resolution. You can also go to like an HD monitor, which is 2560 by 1400 or some such resolution. Anything you want to do. Um, this it could be different. Anyway, so yeah. The what so the solution that you would have you would I saw was if you're trying to render something that Unity has something called a render texture. Here's a previous it's like the sixth time I've recorded this. Anyway, so you just create through the create asset menu here, and then you create a render texture. You can just go my render texture if you're doing the tutorials. So anyways, this is just a sort of image, a texture that Unity has that can render to render to and from, which is really great. So when I knew that we were looking for render texture, I thought, hey, so I've got a camera, and I want to. Unity tell me how to capture the camera to the render texture, and then these Google results are I've kind of perused them a little bit. I haven't fully vetted them, so take them as a grain of salt. But they seemed like they were kind of doing the things that I wanted them to do. Anyway, so this is on the forums in Unity solved rendering camera view to a texture. Then someone else like they actually solved it through their own way or something different. Anyways, or no, I think he actually linked this Gorgon Soft tutorial. It's basically there's a dozen or so of these out there, but just kind of basically it takes a security camera as if like it's a camera in the game looking at a scene or a room in the game, and then it renders it to the render texture, and then you can put that on screen. So that's what we need to do. So anyway, so we take our 64 camera, that's 64 by 64, sped up in perspective, and we just want to swap that over to the render texture. Now it doesn't display anything, and then we can now turn on back on this camera, and then we get this sort of the game view of what it would actually look like, but it's really too small. So then we need to create a canvas because we need to display the image. You would normally you would create a little box or something like that, but we're going to do it a little bit differently. So I set up my canvases that scale this way that the game will actually scale. The rendering of the game will actually scale because we're sort of overriding that. Anyways, and then you could actually one way to do this is that you create a raw image, and there it is. That's because we already have the render texture attached. The raw image is just like it's a Unity's way to display UI, and you could sort of do it in game UI, or you could do it or in the actual game, or in through the Unity's UI. And we're just saying, hey, display the. I believe you can say, hey, view me the. So it's just like we're taking this image right here we can see the image component, and we're just stretching it to fit the screen. Which is, it's one way to do it. It does get this kind of cool, sort of scaled up look. It's basically whatever their resolution is, it will change. And you can actually do the 64 as well because it's independent now of it's rendering it through the canvas. And this camera is actually not rendering anything. Yeah, it's not. I believe it shouldn't be rendering anything. Anyways, because it basically renders it to the which I thought think turning it off. Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked. But so that it seems great, but it's weird. Oh, because I had this problem before. If you're stuck by 64 by 64, it won't quite work. Because you're sort of smooshing the screen down to the appropriate size because we're scaling it. So 64 is correct. That looks kind of weird. So what I tend to like to do is how I have everything set up with the block background for that, and then I use the sky block here, the sky block, the sky box. Woo! So I get this nice gray effect, and then I'm going to use the same render image, but I'm going to put it right smack dab in the middle of the screen at 64 by 640 by 640. Then we actually get this much better scaling because we're scaling it by a factor of 10, and we're still using powers of 2 and all that cool stuff. Oops, excuse me. But we can also go up to the higher. Oh boy, go up to the higher resolutions here, and then still get the same sort of effect. And you can actually use the extra black background for UI and various effects. So long of the short, use a render texture, create the you can also set it up through the camera. I'm not sure actually how you did it, so it's hard to say, but I'm pretty sure you have to use the camera to display whatever you're using. Instead of displaying that to the screen, you can display it through to the render. So this takes I think you can actually look at this. Yeah, in the bottom right here, this is kind of like what you would see that security image photo sometimes looks like. You put a little box and then you put a title and then you put the render. This could be the render texture, but it's actually just showing you what it's actually doing here. So you can see that little tiny gray dot, or we can actually see that they're rendering it to this render texture. And then we use the canvas through here, and I think you can actually click on it. Yeah, double click on it. We set it up 64 by 64. There's lots of things you can do with this, but this basically gives us a nice render texture here. Oh, and we want to select this so you can sort of put this, you can put it up in the upper left. You can do whatever you want. I like it in the center, and then you can do 640 by 640, which scales it up by 10. I should note also, you could actually, it's cool too, you can actually scale this to 1280 by 1280, and then it's like you're overscaling it to your image, so you would have to somehow, have, it's pan or do various things for that effect. But 640 by 640 is the challenge complete. The other thing too is there's a Unity Tiny build. I haven't done anything much with it, but in looking at some of the, so you could sort of take this 64 pixel challenge and maybe try to put it through the Unity Tiny, which would put it on smartwatches and Internet of Things devices and all sorts of cool things. And so can we get it under 64-bit? Probably really easily. Well, we'd actually have to probably do quite a bit with textures and getting things, everything down. But that's a future and a possibility. But I think this hopefully meets the requirements of what you're looking for. And someone else I should mention, I'll probably link this video in their thread thanking them. But they were talking about the fact that you could bit-blit, which is actually the underlying terminology of all this stuff. That it's basically taking pixels, it's taking the pixel memory and then writing it and reading it really quickly, which is, if you do it yourself, it takes forever, but if you do it through BitBlit, it's really, really fast. But the render texture, that's actually what this is probably doing underneath the scene, is it's taking all this camera data and writing it really fast to a texture, and then this texture is saying, hey, read all that texture. You could actually create all this in code, but you would have to use and you could do it through manually, but you would want to do through the render textures because it's really quick and easy to set up. Quicker than this video. Anyways, last thing before I go, I just really appreciate BlackThronProd's art style. It's just kind of, he was asking for some help, and I thought, hey, this would be perfect to thank him for his awesome art. I hope he keeps up the programming. This is not meant to be a jive at his programming, although it kind of sounds like it, but I've been programming for almost 20 plus years and Unity for like 10 or 15, so I'm quite familiar with lots of stuff. There's still lots of stuff I'm learning. But I just hope you keep it up because your art style is amazing. The games you're putting out, and even kind of helping me learn stuff, and that's why I'm a subscriber to your channel. And thank you. So hopefully this meets your challenge, and if you want to see if that works for you, and let me know, that'd be cool. If not, I hope you continue on and have fun and continuing to put out great content. And especially you and your brother. It seems really fun to work as a team on these projects, and I think it's really cool. And thank you very much. You take care. Thanks everybody for watching.